did some little projects together with the St. Louis Battlehawks. I reached out to you guys, and you guys came through, um, and we did a lot of good stuff. That was a great, exciting time for me, and the city of St. Louis, in doing something that only few people could dream about. It was just a year ago that in one of my master classes for sport management, one of my assignments was to create a fictitious sports team. And you had to go through the whole elements of creating uniforms, a stadium, the branding, motto, the whole nine. And a year later, I was actually doing it in real life. So it was kind of a unique experience, but I'm definitely glad to be here to talk with you guys and just kind of talk a little bit about my career, my background, and kind of get to a point of where we're at right now and what we're seeing currently with the world. Everybody has been affected by this national pandemic. Case in point, I'm outside on the back patio because in our house, it is kind of set up. You got homeschool going on. My wife works from home, and I telework some days. I work from home some days, and then I work at the Civic Center on some days. So it's an interesting layout. Every plug you go by has a USB port to it or HDMI cord coming out of it, because at any given time, you got to jump on a call or you're helping kids with their homework. So this has been a wild ride, so to speak. So I will say this: Dan knows that I'm very frank, and I probably will be different from a lot of the speakers that you guys have, or so I'm an open book. And as we go through this, please feel free to ask me any questions. I'm very transparent, and I'm very frank. So I've got my River Dragons hat on. So at the Columbus Civic Center, this is a new challenge for me. I've never been a director or manager of an actual venue, so to speak. So as the director and/or/slash general manager of the building, we have a couple of tenants. We have a hockey team that is a part of the Federal Prospects League. It's a lower division of minor league hockey. And then we also have the Columbus Lions, who are a indoor football team playing in the IFL League, a lower division of indoor football. But what's interesting about the Columbus Lions is they've been around in the town for about 15 years. So they've got a good history with the city of Columbus. One of the things that kind of drew me to the position was they invited me out to tour the facility and the arena. And considering that the arena was built in 1996, it was still in very good condition. And I was extremely impressed with the venue, as I oversee the arena, which has 10,000 seats, as well as we have an adjacent ice rink. This is very new for me. It is an exciting area to be in. We call it the South Commons area, because we actually have the 10,000 seat arena, the adjacent ice rink. We also have a football stadium on the lot that is used for bigger games, so to speak, high school rivalry games. So it's only used for football about 3 or 4 times a year. And then also on the lot, we have the actual softball fields that were built for the '96 Olympics, as Dan was talking about earlier. Columbus, Georgia was the host site for the softball tournament. So we have about 4 fields that are, almost to their professional standards, so to speak, as it relates to softball. And literally this morning, I got a call from my boss, who's the assistant or the deputy city manager, and we are very close in negotiating and closing a deal with a minor league baseball team. But it will be either a single A or a double A team that will probably go live in 2022. So there's an adjacent field that they haven't used, and they're going to potentially be utilizing that for an upcoming minor league baseball team. So it's some exciting times for the city. It is different for me because now I am a city employee. I've never worked for the city or the government before, so this is interesting, where my bosses are literally the deputy city manager, the city manager, and the mayor. So I have biweekly calls with the mayor, and I serve as his advisor along with our director of Parks and Recs on reopening plans. Right now we can't have any events in our arena except for essential events, which are like state court. So we're holding state court. It's funny, in our ice rink. Yes, there's no ice down. And then we also have city council meetings in our arena. So we can only execute essential events right now, but I have taken on a task of pushing my team to be ready. And we've adopted the motto, "We'll be ready." So literally before you guys call, what I've been working on is our strategic plan for operations for the next year and for the next 3 to 5 years. And so what does that look like? In the next year, it's going to be interesting because we don't know. So right now we are doing a lot of events that we can do outdoors. We hosted a drive-in movie a few weeks back and we sold that out in like 5 days. And it garnished so much attention. We've got another drive-in movie that we're doing with the United Negro College Fund. They're going to utilize it as a fundraiser. We have that next week. We're going to do a pretty much a city-wide like trunk or treat event because kids aren't going to be able to trick or treat like they normally are this year. So we're going to have like a drive-through trunk or treat event that we're going to be doing in October. We've got some drive-in concerts that we're going to be doing with some smaller acts up in October. So, and then our hockey team is scheduled to kick off in January. So I've got a couple of calls tomorrow with the owner and the general manager of the hockey team to make sure we have our scheduling and everything ready to go. So we're in an interesting place as well. The arena needs a lot of updates as it relates to get to the 21st century. And it's not a bad thing. They have a great foundation. They've hosted dozens of events. I mean, they've hosted Elton John, they've hosted WWE, they've hosted Cirque du Soleil. So this community is used to larger events. And my goal is to come in and try to take the experience level to a world-class experience where, you know that we don't have the resources of like a Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But what we do have is the people that can still give on a culture and an experience that would be similar to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. You know, my goal would be to have someone come to one of our events who's gone to an event at Mercedes-Benz Stadium and they say, "Hey man, your place is better than Mercedes because of the people." So we're working on developing a new culture with our team to drive that world-class experience. I've got several meetings upcoming with Coca-Cola as potential partners and sponsors and investors. I'd like for us to redo some of our suites, to add premium seating, to add a premium food option, to increase our food and beverage options as well as far as like alcohol. One of the biggest things that I've seen in my experience is people love craft beers and local breweries. So we're working with our alcohol sponsors to, right now, while we have downtime, in introducing new craft beers that are local. I'm not sure if a lot of people know, but Coca-Cola was started in Columbus, Georgia. So we are trying to revamp that and bring that culture and that history back to the Civic Center and making it on a level of where people come into the building and they immediately know, they feel like this is Coca-Cola's town. So that's just a quick run through of what I've got going on. I tell my team I have a small staff. I've probably got about 15 people that report to me full time, and I have like 6 full-time managers. And I told them, I said, "Hey, we might not be having events, but we've got a lot of work going on. We're doing a lot of refreshes as far as safeguards that we're trying to put in place in the arena. Touchless soap dispensers, touchless hand dispensers. We just purchased some magnetometers. Those are the security kind of encampments that you go through, similar to at the airport. We've increased our partnership with Ticketmaster, so that way when people are coming into the building, we're doing more digital tickets. So everything that we're putting in place as far as an infrastructure standpoint is a safeguard for us whenever we do reopen. So I know that was kind of long-winded. Dan, how much time do I have so I can stay on task?
I figured about 6:45. I mean, depending on the feel of it, but I think 6:45 is kind of our target. And we'll do a Q&A too whenever you feel ready for that.
So one of the things, that was a little bit about me. I've done some crazy stuff, man. Just to wrap up my background, I literally started at the bottom. And, my first gig, so to speak, was I was in Australia taking some sports classes over there. Really great, really just great environment, just a really great sports, continent, so to speak. And I was in the city of Melbourne. And Melbourne is just a vibrant sports city. It is a clash of sport and art. So everything in the city is revolved around beautiful architecture and sports everywhere you go. Melbourne is actually like the unofficial sport capital of the world. So the school that I was going to, Deakin University, a lot of American teachers and European teachers for that matter go to Deakin University to get their PhD. So a lot of my teachers were, most of my teachers were American. I had a couple of teachers that was from South Africa. I had a couple of teachers that was from Europe. But when I got there, I was like, hey man, how cool would it be if I can get some kind of sport on my resume in Australia? That'd be crazy. But they don't really do internships. They do kind of like work studies, so to speak, and you got to get a visa in order to do a work study there. And so I went to a basketball team, and the basketball team told me, hey, we do work studies, but what you can do is you can come out and volunteer with us on game day. And I was like, ooh, that sounds great. Heck yeah, I'll volunteer on game day. Yeah, unbeknownst to me, when I got there, they had me parking cars. So, that was something that was totally unexpected, but, I took it on the challenge. Man, I parked cars like nobody else could park cars, man. Just provided a great guest experience to the point where some of the guys from the team came and said, man, all right, you come from outside, you come indoors now. And when I came indoors, sorry, I'm gonna flip my hat back. When I came indoors, they actually asked me to, I thought I was moving on up. And so they actually put me on the sidelines and they were like, okay, man, you got to run out there with the towels and wipe up the sweat and everything when the players fall or during the timeout. And I was like, man, I'm 21 years old, man. I'm not out here. There's some kids running out there doing it. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. Went out there, man. I was moonwalking, sweeping up sweat off the court and doing little dances and stuff. And the crowd was going crazy. They thought I was a part of the show. And the marketing manager came up to me, man. He was like, man, you're crazy, man. Like, you're something special. And I said, yeah, you know what? You guys actually don't have a lot of college students that come to your games. And he was like, yeah, we've had trouble with that. I was like, would you mind for me to put a presentation together for me to show you how I can bring college students to the games? And he was like, sure. So I put a presentation together and showed them how they can do some activations and promotions at some of the local colleges in order to get the college students out there, because in Australia, they have one of the best public transportation systems. So literally you can walk to the end of your street, catch a tram and go almost anywhere in the city. So where the basketball team played, there was a train station right in front of it. So literally you can be anywhere, jump on the train and have an easy access to the game. And so, I incorporated that in my presentation, and we started doing activations at these college campuses, 3-point contests for free tickets, took the cheerleaders, did the corny stuff, took cheerleaders and mascots out there. And they actually saw an increase in one season of 15% in their students that came to games. So when it was time for me to go back to the States, they asked me, they said, hey man, we want to offer you a job, as a marketing coordinator with us. And just unfortunately, I still had another year left of school and I was homesick, and I just said, hey man, I want to get back to the States. And I came back, and that's when I started working for the Chiefs for a little while. So, I say that because you guys are in a great position, man. I didn't have anything like what you guys have right now. So take full advantage of this opportunity, network, meet as many people as you can. When I worked for the Chiefs and I knew my time was coming to an end, I just started calling people from all across the NFL, everywhere, for job opportunities. And some people respond and some people didn't. So you guys are in a great opportunity. Take full advantage of this organization, take full advantage of the networking. And don't be afraid to reach out there and put yourself out there. Don't, what's the worst that's going to happen? Somebody say no. Well, for every door that closes, another one opens. I just got laid off 6 months ago, essentially doing my dream job. And I could have pouted and, I would have had a right to, because when I tell you we were doing something special, Dan will tell you, the games was, unbelievable. We were doing something special. We were doing something right. And then you had it all taken away in one instance. And I took a weekend
also
off.
with like a survey for like the different events.
I took a weekend off and got right back to the grind that following Monday and just started looking for other opportunities. And this opportunity presented itself. So I kind of took advantage of it. So I'm a talker. So I'm gonna try to stay on task and get to a point of where we're talking about what we're talking about today, and then I'll start trying to some chats are coming in, asking questions. So I want to briefly touch on this was one that I threw at Dan. He said, "Hey, what do you want to talk about?" Well, the big controversy right now is to play or not to play, and basically the sports in the age of COVID, and we're seeing this, with college football, we're seeing this with the NFL, MLB. It's affecting every sports across the nation. And you got youth groups, like, for example, where I live at in Georgia, I'm in Swanee, Georgia. It's Gwinnett County, one of the biggest counties in Georgia. These kids are out here playing youth football. Me and my son was at the batting cages the other day, and we pulled up to the batting cages, and it was a packed house. And then where I work in Columbus, the mayor has an ordinance where they're not having football at all. So it's just interesting because the nation is definitely split on this. We're all seeing what's going on between the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the controversy there. And me being in my role, like literally I'm shut down. I can't do any events. I can't do indoors. I can't do any games. I can't do any concerts. So I say that because, in my opinion, and I'd love for us to open this up for discussion and get you guys' insight. In my opinion, I think the best thing to do is to shut it down. I have a family. I've got twin 6-year-olds and almost a 2-year-old. And right now, with so many unknowns, nobody has an answer. I get on calls every other week with general managers and directors from other event venues, facilities that are larger than mine. And these calls used to be 2 hours. And it's so funny now. They used to be 2 hours. They used to be 2 hours. Then they went to an hour and a half. Then they went to an hour. Now they're like 45 minutes because nobody has the right answer. And we sit there and we just ask about how everything's going, because right now with this pandemic, you want to be more safe than sorry when it comes to sports. We as a culture has just gotten so connected to sports where it's a part of our everyday that we're not taking advantage of taking this time back to look at and reflecting on what's important. Because guess what? Sports isn't going anywhere. I had someone call me from a youth organization, a football youth organization, and she was upset. She was one of the presidents of the youth organization for where we're at in Columbus. And she said, well, why do you think that they're not playing? And I said, you think it's going to hurt your 8-year-old that much to not play this fall? Like, as long as you keep him entertained and busy, yeah, he might be bummed about it for a couple of months. But guess what? If you postpone it and we go back in the spring, he's still going to play football. I get people to ask me all the time about, well, these college kids is going to affect affect their recruiting. It's going to affect their draft status. I played football at the University of Kansas. I've been around professional athletes my whole life. And one thing I'll tell you is a scout in the NFL or the NBA or the pros for that matter, they know if a kid got it their freshman year or not. So them going and playing another year this fall, yes, it helps certain individuals. We saw that case in point with Joe Burrow last year at LSU. But for the most part, the majority of the guys that are getting recruited for the professionals, the scouts know who those kids are. They knew about them in high school. They've been drooling over them since they were junior and seniors, All-Americans. So them not playing this fall or playing a reduced schedule or even playing in the spring, it won't hurt their draft status. Now, will it hurt them monetarily? Yeah, it'll hurt them monetarily. You look at Joe Burrow, I think last year he was projected as a guarantee something like $200,000 or $300,000. And by him being the first pick, his guarantee went from $200,000 to $30 million. Yeah, it's having an effect on some of these kids, but though that's not the majority of people. And you got to think about what's going on. Everybody's taking a hit financially right now. Owners, sponsors. So this is a time that it's more about. I feel like it's more about us coming together, trying to stay away as much as we can, stay in our own personal bubbles as much as we can, try to stay as safe as possible, get through this. And, only thing we had to do with college and professional, you just postpone it. You just play in the spring, you go in the summer. These guys are athletes. We've complained, you have people that complain all the time about how much money they get paid for what they do from a professional level or professional standpoint. Now it's time for them to put the money where their mouth is. This is what they do every single day, day in and day out. So if you told a NFL player, hey, we're not going to start till November, we're going to go from November to, you know, April, and then we got to turn right back around and come back in September, they can do it. Or you tell the NBA is looking at restarting next December or January, so they only have maybe a month to 2 months off. They can do it. And especially at the collegiate level, they can do it because they're younger, their bodies haven't been abused as much, they're not going through the constant day in and day out travel. So it can be done. It's just the people that are at the top that kind of control the power. They kind of want to dictate, you know, that money and where it goes. And I've had conversations with our hockey team general manager and their owner, and they asked me for my insight. And I say, listen, if I was the general manager of your team, I wouldn't be focused on this year. I wouldn't. I would be focused on trying to develop long-term relationships. Well, Rob, you know, RJ, what we're going to do with our season ticket holders who say, well, if we don't play, we're going to leave. Well, you don't need those type of season ticket holders. When it comes to you having a fan base, you want to have a culture of people that truly are passionate about you and your team and what you guys are doing. You know, they've showed me emails that season ticket holders have sent them, and I said I will respond back to them and say, you know what, we appreciate your passion and your enthusiasm. We look forward to seeing you in 2021. You know, and if they're not there, I guarantee you, when sports goes live again 100%, you're going to be able to make up for those people that you lost. And then when you lose those people and they know and they see what they're missing out on, they're going to come back next year. Guarantee it. So, you know, it's just a matter of right now of everybody just being patient and kind of doing what's best for the athlete and the fans. So, you know, that's just my 2 cents. My take on it is, you know, we can postpone it and shut it down. It's not going to kill our culture. It's not going to kill what we've worked for all these years to get to where we are. It's just a moment in time for us to do what's right by the people. So that's my take on it. So if you guys don't mind, I'm gonna jump into this chat session, so to speak. And I'm gonna try to answer some of these questions. All right, I'll start with the ones who sent it from first. Okay. Miss Lee asks, or is it Kaylin, Mr. Lee, or Miss Lee? You got to forgive me.
Kaylin.
Kaylin? All right, Kaylin. Did you always know you wanted to work in sports? Do you have any advice for college students like us who want to enter the sports industry? Yeah, I always knew I wanted to work in sports. I played every sport growing up, literally everything: baseball, basketball. You know, the hockey team, when I came in, they asked me, when I got introduced to them, they were like, man, we want to see you out there on some skates. I'm like, hey, be careful what you wish for, man. You'd be trying to sign me up for a contract. So, yes, I've always wanted to play sports, but I've also been intrigued by the business of sports. Originally, I wanted to be a sports agent when I was going to school, but, you know, just through different internships and different experiences, I was like, you know, I was interested in everything, not just, you know, representing an athlete. I was interested in marketing, promotions, operations. And so I just kind of threw myself out there. And, you know, to answer your next question, what would I have for advice for you all? Man, you guys are in it. Like when I was in college, like YouTube was just coming up to be relevant. Facebook was being relevant. There was no LinkedIn. So utilize the communication vessels that you guys have right now. And like I said, don't be afraid to ask. When I was in college, I used to email coaches, professors at other schools, anybody I can get my hands onto for advice, recommendations. And, you know, a lot of my interns that have worked for me in the past still reach out to me, and I try to guide them as much as I can. I can't answer the questions for you, but I can kind of guide you in the right direction of where to be looking for you to make the assessment for yourself. But, you know, my advice is you're already doing it. You're in this organization right now. And, you know, while there's downtime, I will be reaching out to other sports entities to see what kind of volunteer opportunity you can get, what kind of internship you can get. Because my fear for you all and in your age group, and I'm being very transparent with you, I've got some team members that are on my staff that are a little bit older than you all, closer to the 30 age, and working with them, they think that they know more than what they actually know. And it was because they may only did one internship, or they did a volunteer, or they met the right person that put in the right recommendation for them. Well, it's about to get hard for them here, because my expectations for their work and their output, it's going to push them and challenge them maybe outside of the experience that they have. And it may not be a good fit in the long run. I'm just being honest with you. And some of it is because they didn't do the dirty work. They didn't go and park cars. They didn't go and volunteer. They didn't work in concessions. They didn't learn operations. So I say that because one thing that I learned that, in sports early, was I tried to skip some of the steps. And I'm so glad that it worked out the way it did, where I could not skip any of the steps, because now, as a director or GM of an arena, literally everything that takes place in the arena, I've done it before at some form or fashion. Parking, security, concessions, tickets, operations, marketing. My team looks at me when I give them an example of something I've done in the past or a peer, and they're like, man, how did you do that? And I'm only 34. So I'm probably one of the youngest directors in the country of an arena. And it's just because I put it on the grind, and I didn't let one door close and that said no. When I was applying for jobs as director of the Civic Center, I was applying for other jobs that I knew that I was overqualified for, and they were saying no, no, no. Right when I started going through this interview process, I was getting interviewed by two teams in Las Vegas. I was getting interviewed by the Las Vegas Raiders and the Las Vegas Knights to be the director of GameDay, from two separate entities. But I had like a college that would reach out to me and like, oh yeah, you're not qualified to be our assistant director of GameDay operations. I'm like, what? I got an interview tomorrow with the Las Vegas Raiders. What are you talking about? So, and that's how sports is. It's kind of about who you know, but it's also about what you can do. So, be the best at whatever it is that you can do. It was funny. Literally, I was getting no's from some small colleges about being the director of GameDay or director or athletic director over operations. And literally the next day, I'm going through an interview I got an interview with the mayor of the second largest city in Georgia. So it's funny. Sports is funny like that. But just keep grinding, keep grinding. What are some of your goals for this upcoming year? I might have mentioned
quick, RJ, I'm going to jump in. So we're getting really close to the end. I'm going to ask one more question, and then we'll let everyone kind of head off. So you've been involved in from sports teams, marketing, events managing, even at Coca-Cola, for example, you've done all across the board. When you look at your career so far, what accomplishment or what work have you done are you most proud of?
That one's easy. That's Battlehawks. Being able to have the opportunity to go back home to my hometown and do something for the community. When I heard that they were going to have a XFL team in St. Louis, man, I'm telling you, I tried to reach out to Vince McMahon on LinkedIn. I reached out to any and everybody that I could in St. Louis, the mayor, the whole nine. And finally, it got to Kurt, our team president, and he reached out to me. He interviewed me. It was so funny when he called me to interview me. It was right during the time that Arthur Blank was doing like a town hall for all the employees at Mercedes-Benz. So I had to like sneak out the back, and I'm in the back of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium doing an interview with Kurt and one of the presidents at the XFL for this role, while Arthur Blank is giving a speech. So.
All right. So I think we're going to wrap it up there. Thank all you guys for coming, especially thank you to RJ for going through a lot of his experiences. It sounds like you could go on forever, but unfortunately we're going to have to cut it off here. So we were